Welcome, everyone. Let's jump right into a discussion that really turns our understanding upside down. John Calvin, for instance, didn't begin as the theological giant we think of. He started out as a
Yeah,
lawyer.
indeed. Right. And that's a fascinating twist. I mean, who would have thought that a legal mind would end up laying down such ruthless theological groundwork?
Exactly. Calvin's early career in law kind of set the stage for his whole approach to theology. Think of it this way. It's like he saw the Bible not as a mystical guide or poetic inspiration, but as a binding legal code, a contract between a supreme, all-powerful God and humanity that was, well, already corrupt.
Absolutely. That analogy really hits home. It's as if God is sitting in the infinite courtroom, and humanity is, the defendant who's already been judged guilty from the start.
Exactly. And Calvin's logic was, quite clear. Because sinners are, as he thought, inescapably guilty, born in a state of total depravity, their salvation is not a matter of personal choice or good works. It's like a verdict was passed before they even came into the picture.
Right. It's that whole concept of predestination that really shakes things up. You see, Calvin's chain of reasoning goes, God is absolutely sovereign. Like, nothing happens outside of his will. And because humanity is completely tainted by sin, only God's initiative can, awaken someone to salvation.
Exactly. If we break it down further, Calvin's steps are pretty methodical. First, God's sovereignty means outcomes are predetermined. Then, because we're all born with the stain of original sin, we're, in his view, essentially legally dead, needing nothing less than divine intervention to, reanimate our souls.
And here's where it gets really compelling and contentious, because Calvin even argued that Jesus didn't die for everyone, only for the elect. It's a perspective that, understandably, rattles modern sensibilities.
Yeah, exactly. That idea that Christ's sacrifice was limited to the elect is something that still sparks intense debate. In fact, think of it. If God, his absolute justice, and his predetermined plan are at play, then the whole concept of free will, or our ability to choose salvation, kind of, evaporates.
And that's where some critics come in. For instance, Arminius argued that grace could be resisted, suggesting human choice still matters. It's like, while Calvin was building this ironclad legal system of destiny, others were saying there might be, wiggle room for dissent.
Yeah, that tension is
Right.
really intriguing. Calvin's approach was almost, judicial. He mapped out 7 steps from divine sovereignty to the idea that once salvation is granted, it can never be lost. It's a call for absolute certainty, which, in a period of chaos and, the Black Death, provided a sort of terrifying stability.
And speaking of stability, let's talk about Geneva. Calvin set up a sort of theocratic lab where church attendance was mandatory, and anything deviating from his strict standards, dissent, blasphemy, even naming your child after a saint, was, strictly punished.
Right, it's like he envisioned a society organized entirely by divine legal principles, no exceptions. It was a utopia for some, but for others, it was a suffocating dictatorship. I mean, burning Michael Servetus alive for rejecting the Trinity, that's a level of enforcement that really turns the scale towards tyranny, don't you think?
I do, and that's exactly the point of contention. While Calvin's followers might have found solace in the idea that everything was decided by God's unchallengeable will, critics pointed out that mixing legalism with divine judgment can lead to, severely oppressive practices.
Yeah, it's a bit unsettling when you think about it. But remember, the backdrop was Europe in turmoil. Forget the Black Death, the rampant corruption within the Catholic Church, and the quest for order amidst chaos. Calvin's, severity might have seemed like the only logical way to impose divine order when society was perceived as morally bankrupt.
Exactly. And yet, I think it's fair to respectfully challenge that notion. Just because society was in chaos doesn't automatically justify such extreme measures. There's a balance to be struck between, ensuring order and preserving individual freedom.
That's a solid point. And Calvin's approach did have lasting repercussions. Today, his legacy is deeply woven into Presbyterianism, Reformed theology, and even in cultural threads like the Puritan work ethic and the later development of modern capitalism.
Yep, his fingerprints are seemingly all over debates on free will versus determinism. It's remarkable how these 16th century ideas still influence modern thought on morality, responsibility, and, even political structure.
Exactly. To put it another way, Calvin's view was like a lens through which you could see the world, albeit a really stark and legalistic one. Every part of existence was framed as a divine verdict, where every action, every sin or virtue, was part of a preordinated legal process.
And that raises another interesting point. It's like his theories forced people to confront the idea that human imperfection isn't just an accident of nature, but a calculated aspect of a divine plan. For some, that was liberating, because it took the guesswork out of salvation. For others, it was, deeply disheartening.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword. Calvin's followers could find comfort in certainty, knowing that their fate was sealed by God's unerring will. But that same certainty could be seen as stripping away personal accountability. It's like signing a contract where every clause, even the harshest ones, is already pre-written by a higher authority.
Exactly. And that leads us back to the enduring debate. Does the clarity of a predetermined system outweigh the individual's liberty? Calvin's unwavering logic provided order in a turbulent time, but at a significant moral and ethical cost, in my opinion.
Yeah, you're right about that. And it's funny, really, how someone with a legal background could see the Bible as nothing less than a supreme legal document, clearly outlining rules and penalties, almost like a, cosmic constitution. It's like he turned theology into a courtroom drama.
Exactly. And his approach, while methodical, raises questions about whether such a legalistic vision can ever truly capture the, expansive nature of spiritual life. After all, many argue that faith is more about, personal experience and transformation, rather than passing a divine judgment.
That's true. And yet, we see how Calvin's ideas evolved and influenced pieces of modern society, from shaping strict religious communities to impacting cultural attitudes toward work and ethics. It's impressive how a set of ideas from the 16th century can still spark such debate today.
Right? And when you put it in perspective, it's almost like a feedback loop. Calvin's notion of an unchangeable divine verdict provided comfort to those in a chaotic time. Today, those ideas are revisited and critiqued, sometimes embraced for their precision in logic, other times rejected for their inflexibility.
Yeah, exactly. And interestingly, while modern proponents of free will might find Calvin's system too strict, some modern religious groups still appreciate the clarity it brings to the concept of divine justice. It's a real philosophical tug of war.
And it definitely leaves us with a lot to think about. For instance, if you believe that every human decision is predetermined by divine law, what does that say about personal responsibility? It's like having an ultimate safety net that might also discourage individual growth or accountability.
Right. Yep. That's always the debate. And it's a question that goes beyond theology into ethics and even modern legal theory. The more we discuss it, the more we see its relevance to debates on free will, moral responsibility, and the role of divine influence in our lives.
Absolutely. And it's also fascinating to see how Calvin's strict governmental model in Geneva with its harsh rules and severe punishments, mirrors modern debates on, the balance between order and freedom.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And while some admire the clarity of his system, others rightly critique it as being overly rigid. There's a delicate balance between law and grace, and Calvin's legalistic approach sometimes tipped too far in favor of order, leaving little room for compassion or personal nuance.
Right. And it's that tension between certainty and compassion that continues to fuel theological debates even today. Calvin's influence persists because it forces us to ask, can divine logic, as cold and absolute as it sometimes appears, truly account for the complexities of human life?
Absolutely. And, if you think about it, it's like a blueprint fashioned in turbulent times, designed to bring order out of chaos. Whether we accept that blueprint today or reject it depends on our own perspectives on freedom, justice, and, well, the nature of grace.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And it really is a conversation that has evolved through centuries. Even if we disagree on some of the points, we can't deny that Calvin's legacy continues to challenge how we think about everything from religion to personal accountability.
Right, yep. And, while his strictness might be off-putting to us now, his vision did provide it's like a firm foundation in a time of instability. It's a reminder that sometimes, in seeking certainty, we risk losing some of the human touch in the process.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And I guess, in a way, that's the lasting takeaway. Whether you view his ideas as brutally efficient or as, overly deterministic, Calvin's work forces us to grapple with questions that remain deeply relevant. What is the role of authority in our lives? How do we balance order with freedom?
Yes, indeed. And that conversation continues to this day, and, that's precisely what makes revisiting Calvin such a compelling journey. His ideas spark both admiration and critique, inviting us to explore the interplay between divine order and human freedom.
Absolutely. And it's really a testament to the enduring power of ideas. Even centuries later, we're still unpacking his legacy in every discussion on theology, ethics, and personal responsibility.
Right, yep. Well, that's a wrap on diving deep into Calvin's world, a world that flipped the script on how we see both law and faith. Thanks for staying with this discussion.
Thanks for the insightful chat. It's been, really thought-provoking to explore these ideas together.